Right now, somewhere out there, the person who ghosted you is lying awake at 2 a.m., replaying a moment they'll never admit to anyone. That text they ignored when you needed them. That night they walked out instead of staying to work things through. The way your voice cracked the last time you tried to reach them and they responded with silence. They remember. They remember all of it. And what they feel when those memories surface isn't indifference. It's shame so thick they can barely breathe through it. You've probably spent months, maybe years, wondering if they ever cared at all, wondering if you imagined the connection, wondering if you were just convenient, disposable, forgettable. I'm going to tell you something that might be hard to hear, and I need you to stay with me through this entire conversation. Because the truth about avoidant attachment and shame is far more complicated than the cold exterior they showed you, and understanding it might finally set you free. Let's start by dismantling a myth that's probably been torturing you. When an avoidant partner pulls away, shuts down, or disappears, everything about their behavior screams one message: I don't care. The flat effect, the emotional unavailability, the way they could seemingly move on overnight while you were still crying into your pillow 3 months later. It all points to the same devastating conclusion. You didn't matter. But here's what most people completely overlook. Avoidant attachment isn't the absence of emotion. It's the suppression of emotion so complete that even the avoidant person loses access to what they actually feel. Their nervous system learned, usually in childhood, that emotional needs are dangerous, that vulnerability leads to rejection, that depending on anyone is the fastest route to devastation. So, they built walls, not to hurt you, to survive. Consider this. A child reaches for a parent who consistently turns away. What does that child learn? My needs push people away. My emotions are too much. If I want to keep the people I love close, I have to need nothing from them. That child grows into an adult who has mastered the art of appearing self-sufficient, but underneath that masterful exterior is someone who never stopped needing connection. They just convinced themselves and everyone around them that they didn't. Now watch how this connects to what happened between you and them. When an avoidant person hurts someone they care about, they don't process it the way securely attached people do. A securely attached person might feel guilty, reach out, apologize, repair. They have the internal resources to tolerate the discomfort of having made a mistake. An avoidant doesn't have those resources. For them, acknowledging that they hurt you means acknowledging that you mattered. And if you mattered, that means they needed you. And if they needed you, their entire psychological defense system starts to collapse. So instead of facing the guilt, they convert it to shame. And shame, unlike guilt, doesn't motivate repair. Shame says, I'm not just someone who did a bad thing. I am bad. Fundamentally, irreparably, unworthy of love. From that shame place, reaching out feels impossible. How do you apologize to someone when you believe, at your core, that you're incapable of being what they deserved? How do you repair when your deepest fear is that any attempt will just confirm what you already believe about yourself, that you destroy everything good that comes close to you, so they don't reach out. They disappear further. They bury themselves in work or dating apps or substances or anything that keeps them from sitting with the weight of what they've done. And you interpret that distance as proof they never cared. Sit with that for a moment. Their absence isn't evidence of indifference. It might be evidence of shame so unbearable they can't face you. Here's the first pattern I want you to understand deeply. Avoidants experience emotions on a delay. Sometimes weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years. Let me give you a scenario. Marcus ended things with his girlfriend Jenna after 2 years together. In the moment, he felt nothing, maybe even relief. He told himself the relationship had run its course, that he needed space, that she wanted too much from him. He moved on quickly, started seeing someone new within weeks. But 6 months later, Marcus is standing in his kitchen making coffee, and a song comes on that Jenna used to sing off-key while cooking breakfast. And suddenly his chest tightens. his eyes burn. He has to grip the counter because a wave of grief he didn't know existed just knocked him sideways. This is the avoidant experience. The emotions were always there. His system just couldn't process them in real time because doing so would have meant confronting vulnerability he wasn't equipped to handle. So, his psyche stored them away, like letters he'd open later when it felt safe. The problem? It never feels safe. So those stored emotions accumulate. They leak out in unexpected moments. They haunt him in ways he can't explain to his new partner, who wonders why he sometimes seems a million miles away. Here's the reality. Marcus isn't over Jenna. He never properly processed Jenna. And until he does the deep internal work of facing his attachment patterns, he'll carry her, and every other person he's pushed away, inside a compartment of his psyche that's always threatening to overflow. How do you apply this? If you're healing from an avoidant, recognize that their apparent indifference in the aftermath wasn't the full picture. They may genuinely not have felt the impact yet. That's not your problem to solve, but knowing it can help you stop interpreting their coldness as a statement about your worth. It's a statement about their limitations, nothing more. Now let's go deeper into something the avoidant will probably never tell you directly. They remember specific moments with startling clarity, and those memories carry a weight they're terrified to acknowledge. Picture this. It's been a year since Daniel ended things with his partner, Aisha. If you asked him directly about the relationship, he'd give you a surface answer. It just didn't work out. We wanted different things. He's rehearsed this narrative so many times it almost sounds true. But late at night, when his defenses drop, different memories surface. The time Aisha flew across the country to surprise him when he was going through a hard time at work. The way she looked at him like he was worth something, even when he felt worthless. The last conversation when she asked him why he kept shutting her out. And he couldn't give her an answer because the truth was lodged so deep he didn't have words for it. Daniel doesn't think about these moments consciously, but his body keeps the score. He gets a knot in his stomach every time he passes the restaurant where they had their first date. He can't listen to certain albums anymore. He deleted her number but still knows it by heart. Most people completely overlook this about avoidance. Their detachment is performance. Underneath, they're cataloging everything, every hurt they caused, every moment they failed to show up, every look of disappointment they pretended not to see. And here's the devastating part. They don't know what to do with any of it. They can't metabolize these memories because that would require feeling them fully. So the memories just sit there, crystallized, a private museum of regret they visit when no one's watching. How do you apply this? Stop wondering if you were forgettable. You weren't. The avoidant may act like the relationship never happened, but they're carrying it in ways that would surprise you. This doesn't mean you should wait around for them to process it. It means you can release the story that you weren't enough to matter. You mattered. Their system just couldn't handle how much. Speaking of things that torture people after an avoidant relationship, let's address the elephant in the room. They moved on fast, maybe embarrassingly fast. And it felt like a knife to your heart. Rachel was blindsided when her avoidant ex, Tyler, was in a new relationship less than a month after their breakup. She saw photos online. He looked happy, present, all the things he couldn't be with her. It confirmed her worst fear. The problem was her. He was capable of showing up for someone, just not for her. But the part nobody mentions is this. That rebound isn't what it looks like. Avoidants often jump into new relationships quickly precisely because they can't tolerate the emotional aftermath of the previous one. A new person provides distraction, novelty, and most importantly, distance from the shame that's threatening to surface. And here's the pattern that almost always plays out. The new relationship starts intense and promising. The avoidant seems different, more engaged, more available, but as soon as genuine intimacy develops, as soon as the new partner needs something emotionally substantial, the same walls go up, the same distance returns, The avoidant recreates the exact dynamic they ran from. Tyler's new girlfriend is probably, within 6 months, having the exact same tearful conversations Rachel had. She's probably asking the same questions. Why do you shut down? Why can't you let me in? And Tyler is probably feeling the same suffocating panic that makes him want to flee. The avoidant doesn't change partners to find something better. They change partners to escape themselves. But wherever they go, they bring their attachment wounds with them. How do you apply this? The next time you see them looking happy with someone new, remember this pattern. You're not witnessing them healed. You're witnessing the opening act of a cycle that will repeat until they do serious work on themselves. Their apparent happiness isn't proof you failed. It's proof they haven't changed. This brings us to something that might shift everything for you. The avoidant who hurt you probably hates themselves for it more than you could imagine. I want to paint this carefully because it's not about excusing their behavior. It's about completing the picture so you can stop carrying questions that don't belong to you. When an avoidant behaves badly in a relationship, the emotional withdrawal, the stonewalling, the disappearing acts, they're usually aware they're doing damage. They see your pain, they see themselves causing it. And in that moment, something inside them fractures. But instead of changing course, they double down on distance. Because the self-loathing that surfaces when they see themselves hurting you is so intolerable that the only way to escape it is to escape you. Consider this. The avoidance internal monologue often sounds something like, "Look at what I'm doing to this person who loves me. Look at how broken I am. They deserve so much better than someone like me. I can't give them what they need. I'm only going to keep hurting them. The kindest thing I can do is leave." Notice the twisted logic. They frame abandonment as protection. They tell themselves they're doing you a favor by disappearing. In their mind, staying would only cause more damage. This is shame dressed up as nobility. And it's a lie they tell themselves to avoid the harder path of actually changing. Because change would require vulnerability. It would require admitting they were wrong. It would require facing you directly and witnessing the hurt they caused. That's too much for a dysregulated nervous system to handle, so they run. And they carry the shame with them into every future relationship, compounding it each time they repeat the pattern. How do you apply this? Release the fantasy that they walked away feeling fine. They didn't. But also release the hope that their shame will transform into accountability. It rarely does without serious intervention. Your job isn't to rescue them from their shame. It's to stop letting their shame become your story about your worth. Now, I need to address something directly, because I know some of you are hearing all this and thinking, so there's hope. If they feel all this shame and they remember everything, maybe they'll come back. Maybe they'll do the work. Maybe this isn't really over. The hard truth, they might, but probably not in the way you're hoping for. Avoidance can absolutely grow and change. People do it every day. But that change typically requires hitting a personal bottom, usually after cycling through enough failed relationships that denial becomes impossible. It requires therapy, often years of it. It requires a level of self-confrontation that most people, avoidant or not, never fully commit to. And even if they do that work, even if they come out the other side more secure and self-aware, they may not come back to you. In fact, they often can't. Because you represent the shame they worked so hard to escape. Returning to you means returning to the scene of their greatest failures. That's terrifying even for someone who's genuinely changed. So, waiting for them is usually a form of self-abandonment. It keeps you frozen in a story where your healing depends on their choices. And that's exactly the dynamic that made the relationship painful in the first place. So, where does this leave you? Knowing that the avoidant feels shame doesn't erase what they did. It doesn't retroactively justify the nights you spent questioning your sanity. It doesn't fix the way they made you feel unseen, unheard, and unworthy of basic emotional presence. But maybe it offers something else. Maybe it closes the loop on questions that have been keeping you stuck. Did they care? Yes, in their own limited, defended way. Do they remember? More vividly than they'd ever admit. Do they feel bad? Almost certainly, though they'll rarely show it. Will they change? Maybe. But not for you. And probably not soon. Here's the reality. You were in a relationship with someone whose emotional architecture made intimacy feel like danger. Every time you moved closer, their internal alarm system screamed threat. Not because of anything you did, because closeness itself was the trigger. You weren't the problem. You were the invitation to healing they weren't ready to accept. The avoidant in your past is probably carrying more shame than you know. They've got a mental drawer stuffed with memories they can't look at directly. They've built entire identities around being fine, being independent, being beyond the reach of their own feelings. But at 2 a.m., when the distractions stop working, they meet themselves in the dark, and what they see isn't someone who escaped unscathed. It's someone who keeps burning down the things they secretly wanted most. That's not your burden. Their shame doesn't require your forgiveness. Their regret doesn't obligate you to leave a door open. What you can take from this is simpler. You weren't crazy for believing there was more beneath the surface. There was, there is. You just couldn't reach it. Not because you didn't try hard enough, but because it was buried under decades of defensive armor that no amount of love can penetrate from the outside. They have to do that work themselves. And you have to stop making your healing contingent on whether they do. The most loving thing you can do now for yourself is to turn that same attention you gave them toward your own wounds. Because here's the truth that might sting a little. Something in you chose them. Something in you was drawn to that unavailability. And until you understand what that something was, you risk recreating this pattern with someone new. Their shame is their journey. Your healing is yours. Start walking.